Welcome back to Silent Payback, the channel where silence is more powerful than words, patience is more potent than aggression, and the quietest people often wield the greatest influence. In today's story, you'll witness how being underestimated can turn into your ultimate advantage. Every gesture, every glance, every decision, no matter how small, is part of a larger plan when executed with patience and precision. The individuals who laughed, mocked, or ignored the silent observer will soon learn that restraint is a weapon, observation is a strategy, and calculated silence is a force that can reshape outcomes entirely. Today, we dive into a psychological revenge story where subtlety, calm, and intelligence triumph over arrogance and impulsiveness. Sit back, focus, and watch carefully, because the quietest moves often leave the loudest impact. Subscribe and turn on notifications to follow more stories of faceless victories, silent dominance, and strategic payback that prove the underestimated are never truly powerless. They laughed at me. Every smirk, every whispered joke, every casual insult felt like fuel for a fire that no one could see burning. I did not react, I did not argue, and I did not expose my plan. Instead, I observed. Every careless gesture, every sign of arrogance, every minor flaw was catalogued and analyzed, like pieces of a puzzle that no one else could see. My silence was not submission, it was strategy. Every interaction became a source of information, every moment of underestimation a step toward inevitable consequences. Months passed, and the world continued to underestimate me, blissfully unaware that each laugh and mockery was strengthening the very plan that would eventually turn the tables. My patience became a weapon, my observation became a map, and my quiet resilience became the foundation for a silent payback that would be precise, calculated, and devastating. While they believed my quiet demeanor meant weakness, it was in reality the most powerful advantage, an invisible force shaping the trajectory of events without ever being noticed. Every day, I meticulously tracked patterns, noted mistakes, and identified vulnerabilities, ensuring that when the moment arrived, the consequences would be unstoppable and undeniable. They had no idea that what appeared to be harmless silence was actually the accumulation of months of strategic planning, mental preparation, and subtle influence that would soon leave them reeling. Weeks turned into months, and their arrogance grew with every passing day. They believed that my quiet demeanor was harmless, that my lack of confrontation indicated weakness, that they were untouchable. But the more they celebrated their assumed superiority, the more I observed, calculated, and refined my plan. Every careless action they took, every misplaced confidence, every hidden insecurity became a thread in the web I was quietly weaving around them. I intervened subtly, shifting circumstances, creating minor setbacks, and guiding events in ways they could not perceive. All of this was invisible to them, yet it altered their environment in crucial ways. Their overconfidence blinded them, making it impossible to see the quiet strategist working behind the scenes. Each misstep they made compounded naturally, and each unobserved flaw became a tool I could exploit. The power of patience was evident. While they acted impulsively, I acted deliberately. Every silent moment was a building block toward inevitable consequences, and every underestimated interaction was a step closer to turning arrogance into vulnerability. The quiet observer, once ignored, had become an invisible architect of their unraveling, ensuring that when the moment of revelation arrived, the outcome would be complete, undeniable, and irreversible. The first cracks appeared almost imperceptibly. Small mistakes, overlooked opportunities, and subtle hesitations began to disrupt their sense of control. I never acted openly, my influence was invisible yet precise. Each domino fell exactly as intended, triggered not by confrontation but by the natural unfolding of their mistakes, guided by careful observation and strategic subtlety. They assumed their failures were coincidences, blind to the fact that the quiet figure they mocked had orchestrated every subtle shift. Every careless decision, every moment of overconfidence, and every unnoticed action contributed to a chain of consequences that could not be reversed. My restraint and patience were my instruments, shaping reality while remaining unseen. The individuals who laughed at my silence could not trace the source of the unfolding events, leaving them confused, frustrated, and increasingly vulnerable. I had turned their arrogance into a trap they could not escape, and every unnoticed move they made only strengthened the precision of the silent strategy one had cultivated over months. The underestimated observer had become the silent executor of justice, proving that subtlety and foresight are more powerful than impulsive aggression. As their confidence continued to falter, subtle disruptions multiplied. Friends began questioning their judgment, colleagues noticed inconsistencies, and hesitation replaced their once unshakable assurance. I remained calm, unseen, and patient, allowing events to unfold naturally while quietly nudging circumstances toward my intended outcome. Every seemingly minor action, every overlooked detail, and every moment of underestimation became a part of a larger, carefully constructed narrative. My silence had transformed into influence, my observation into control, and my patience into power. They could not identify the source of their misfortunes because the force guiding events remained invisible. Every domino fell perfectly into place, creating a chain reaction that compounded with each passing day. What they assumed was coincidence was in reality the meticulous orchestration of a strategy built over months, a strategy designed to leverage their arrogance, impulsiveness, and ignorance. The quiet observer they mocked had become the most powerful presence, unseen yet undeniably shaping outcomes. Then came the pivotal moment, the moment when months of patient planning converged perfectly. Their overconfidence led to mistakes, their trust in the wrong allies created openings, and their arrogance exposed vulnerabilities I had catalogued and analyzed. I remained unseen, letting the natural consequences of their actions unfold while subtly guiding outcomes to ensure they aligned with the strategy one had meticulously built. Every error, every hesitation, and every misstep compounded, creating a cascade of consequences they could not control. They believed the chaos around them was coincidence, unaware that every detail had been observed, every weakness exploited, and every domino positioned strategically over time. My silence had become a weapon of precision, patience a force of inevitability, and observation the invisible architect of their downfall. The underestimated, quiet observer they ignored had finally revealed the strength of restraint, the potency of subtle influence, and the power of calculated silence. Finally, the decisive moment arrived. Their world, once filled with arrogance and control, began to collapse in ways they could not anticipate. Trust eroded, confidence faltered, and alliances crumbled, all without confrontation, without spectacle, without overt action. I remained calm, unseen, and perfectly composed, watching the culmination of months of careful planning manifest flawlessly. Every subtle adjustment, every unnoticed intervention, every moment of strategic patience contributed to this moment of revelation. They were left bewildered, powerless, and humbled by the invisible force they had ignored. The quiet observer, underestimated and overlooked, had become the ultimate executor of consequences, proving that restraint, observation, and patience can be more powerful than aggression, confrontation, or noise. The lesson was clear: underestimating silence is dangerous, and ignoring subtle intelligence invites inevitable reckoning. In the aftermath, calm returned, but the consequences lingered. Those who mocked, ignored, or underestimated me were left humbled, cautious, and forever aware of the silent presence they had dismissed. I remained unseen, yet my control over events had been complete. Every reaction, every hesitation, and every shift in behavior was a direct result of careful observation and patient orchestration. Silence had become a weapon, patience had become a strategy, and subtlety had become a force capable of reshaping outcomes entirely. The quiet observer they laughed at had proven that being underestimated is not a weakness but a powerful advantage. My influence had been invisible, yet absolute, leaving a lasting lesson in the potency of calm, calculated, and deliberate action. Weeks later, the impact of silent payback was undeniable. Confidence remained tempered, alliances had been subtly rearranged, and the arrogance that once seemed unstoppable had been permanently reshaped. I had remained quiet, underestimated, and invisible throughout the process, yet every outcome had aligned perfectly with the plan I had constructed. The quiet observer had demonstrated that patience, observation, and subtle manipulation can achieve results far beyond what impulsive action or confrontation could ever accomplish. Those who had mocked or ignored me now faced the inescapable reality: silence carries immense power, restraint can be unstoppable, and subtle strategy can leave permanent marks on those who fail to notice it. The underestimated are rarely powerless, they are often the architects of change, the quiet forces that determine outcomes unseen. And as I moved forward, I carried the ultimate truth: silence is strength, patience is strategy, and observation is power. Revenge does not require confrontation, shouting, or spectacle. It requires careful timing, precise influence, and unwavering restraint. I had remained quiet, underestimated, and invisible, yet I had controlled the narrative entirely. Silent payback had spoken louder than any words ever could, leaving a permanent mark on those who had mocked me. The lesson is clear: underestimate silence at your own risk, for the quietest presence often wields the heaviest consequences. Strategic patience, subtle observation, and calculated influence are more formidable than any visible action, proving that silent victories are the most enduring and devastating. This is Silent Payback Story.